It is the Welcome to Cooperville podcast, episode number 72. Jesse Westover going to join us in just a few moments here. Excited to talk to a fellow entrepreneur. We're going to talk about guns and aliens and shit. Just whatever. Everything's just going to pop off. It's going to be badass in just a bit. First things first, though, got to say thanks to Midwest Meals and MidwestMeals.com. 13 rotating fresh and healthy meals, including all of your macro information on there, which is super duper important. If you had a New Year's resolution, if you believe in that kind of voodoo magic, if you do, those are the kind of things you need to know. What's going in your body. You also need to supplement well, which we'll talk to Jesse about here in just a bit. But your fats, your proteins, your carbs, all that stuff, you got to know what's going in your body, all that stuff right there on the packaging. Lean turkey tacos, again, I talk about this all the time. It's basically my jam. My Taco Tuesday is every day of the week, which really sucks. I have to look at the calendar, make sure I know what day it is. The Chipotle Bowl, the pulled pork, fantastic stuff. And they're changing stuff all the time, too. So make sure you check out their rotating meals. And now they stay fresher even longer. And if you need to freeze them, maybe you're preparing for the apocalypse. I raise my hand because maybe I am. You can do that. They stay fresher longer. Here's the awesome part. 10% off your first order at MidwestMeals.com. Just punch in the promo code Cooper at checkout and get 10% off your first order. By the way, they ship nationwide, so no matter where you are in this country of ours, whether you're under armed supervision or not, you can get your Midwest meals delivered right to your door. Also, big thanks out to my friends over at Monster Energy, hashtag Monster Podcast. The new Monster Hydro Super Sport is out now. 2 flavors, Blue Streak and Red Dog. That's DAWG, dog. So you're talking about the key functional ingredients, like I got 1,000 milligrams of branched-chain amino acids, magnesium, calcium, vitamin B3, vitamin B6, 200 milligrams of caffeine in there as well, and only 70 calories per a 24-ounce bottle. So make sure you check that out at a retailer near you. That is the new Monster Hydro Super Sport, available from Monster Energy. Again, the hashtag is Monster Podcasts. Jesse Westover is here. He is with us. We are live. It is good to see you, my friend. How have you been?
Good, man. You cannot complain.
You know, we were talking about before we went live here that it's just the 13th month of 2020.
Ain't that the truth, man? It's never ending.
It was great. I mean, not great. I shouldn't say great because that's antagonistic. But, everybody was so like, man, 2020 in the rearview mirror. Can't wait for New Year's. That was the big hoopla, even though there was no big hooplas for the New Year's celebration. It was like, finally, 2020 is out of the way. And then 2021 hit, and it was like a shit show.
It's like I don't know what people expected to happen. It's like every year, the only thing that changes is the year. It's like the last number on the calendar. Like, I don't know what they expected to happen, but here we are.
Yeah, there was going to be miracle cures were going to come out. Everything was going to open back up. We were going to be in some sort of utopia. Like, 2021
yeah, it's
is
like
here.
2020 didn't happen.
Yeah, that's what it's still happening. But the owner, operator, and boss man, CEO of Nutrition Junction, rocking that Nutrition Junction hoodie right there. Like that. Boss gear. So lots of things to talk to you about as far as entrepreneurship and getting into to being a business owner. Obviously, it's something that you and I have chatted about. My path, your path, and ways to get from point A to point B for, I would say, young entrepreneurs. But I think anybody, especially now, who's either maybe working reduced hours or is really sick of the conditions that they have to work in, whether they're like, you liked working from home for the first month and then it sucked, and they're looking for a different path. So we'll talk about some different outlets, but you're also a veteran. You're still in, aren't you? You're still
military. Good old National Guard. So
National Guard, man. I know that you've first off, thank you for your service. And I know that there's been in this year, tumultuous times. You're hailing from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Obviously, that was an epicenter for some tough times there over the course of the summer. What's from your vantage point, and we'll start specifically with just the environment that you've been in. I mean, what's the vibe around Minneapolis, St. Paul right now? I mean, do you feel like that things have tempered a little bit since the summer?
Yeah, I don't think it's as I don't want to say intense, but during the summertime, it was nuts. So I grew up where the whole George Floyd thing happened. I grew up probably 2-3 miles from there. So I didn't live far. And when I grew up there, I didn't think it was bad because it's where I grew up. So then once I grew up and I moved to the Edina, Southwest Minneapolis area, people talked so much crap about it in high school. They're like, "Oh, South Minneapolis." I'm like, "Hey, man, like
that's
I
my
don't know.
roots."
What are you trying to say here? So there's that, and it's never been a really super good area. It's always been, I don't want to say super crime ridden, but now it's like closer to Gotham City and Batman. It's not that crazy, but if I were to compare it to something,
Right.
it's that. Like, you go on the local news channels, there's something happening every day. Cars flipping over other cars, and it's people's driveways, shootings. So it's definitely a lot more crime ridden since then. But as far as like the tension, I don't think it's as bad. But of course, with everything that happened, it's still there. So
right. Yeah, it was, I think just being in close proximity to that area and going through summer, obviously everybody's running on this heightened tension anyway, just because of lockdowns and, COVID fears and mask mandates, and you can't do this, you can't do that. One day you guys can cross over to, cross over the big river over there, and all of a sudden you can go into a pub and have yourself a pint if you were so inclined to, but you can't do that in your home state. But there was, it all seemed to escalate during that George Floyd incident that happened, which was horrific, and kind of spurred off everything else that went on in the country. But having friends of friends that lived in that area while everything was kind of going on with the looting and the rioting and stuff, I mean, it looked like a place out of a war zone. I mean, it literally looked like, and even if you pull up Netflix, I'm sure there's films that you're like, this looks like the exact same scene that I saw in Minneapolis. And it was just a really scary time for people because everybody was already feeling like, COVID could be the end of all of us.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to die from COVID. And then you have this going on. We're like, okay, how many signs of the apocalypse do we need to have happen over the course of 3 months?
Yeah, it's what else needs to happen. Yeah. For me, it's kind of weird because I see it from all three sides. So on top of running the Nutrition Junction, I'm a corrections officer too, and I'm a use of force instructor for my county, for the jail, for stuff like that. So I saw it from that side. I saw it from the civilian side and from the military side. So that whole situation, I'm just like, fuck.
Yeah.
Like, and I remember seeing the video. Like, I saw that video on Facebook. I thought nothing of it. I was like, obviously I thought, holy fuck, like it's not good, but I didn't know it was going to explode like that. So I was like, shit, especially seeing it from all three sides. I'm just like, there's this, there's that, and there's this. I'm just like, shit, man.
Yeah.
So I had an interesting perspective. Not that other people didn't have an interesting perspective, but being on all three sides of it, I just kind of shut my mouth about it unless I'm talking to guys like you or Dan or like people that I know won't like crucify me for it. So makes it interesting for sure.
Yeah. And I think we kind of, there's still this tension in the air. We were also talking about this before we went on. We should really record that beginning part. I'm like talking to my invisible producer that I point to over there. It's really just a wall. Yo, record this next time, asshole. But, we talked about 25,000 troops on the ground in D.C. for the inauguration. Now, obviously, tensions were heightened after things that happened a couple weeks ago in the Capitol. But, fence and razor wire around the Capitol Mall. You look at these videos of these troops going in, fully armed to the T, but, and we kind of talked about, well, they didn't have magazines in because that's just not protocol. But
there's a process to it.
There's A to B. You don't put the magazine in and just stroll about the streets, It's
like we're not patrolling Iraq. You're not going to keep a mag in your rifle at all times. You're in the fucking United States.
Yeah,
you can't treat. They're not the same.
Yeah, you end up shooting yourself in the foot and just something dumb like that. But no, it's it's a wild scene. There's just a lot of tension going on. And I think when you talk about being a small business owner, how long have you been in business with Nutrition Junction?
Close to a year and a half since October of 2019.
So in infancy, a company in its infancy, and you look at, the strains that are out there economically and socially and politically, it's a very tense time. And when you go back to kind of the start of when the whole COVID pandemic, I want to say officially started, because
Right.
who knows?
Yeah.
But when things kind of started to get shut down between Wisconsin and Minnesota, I know that was, early to mid-March for both of us when they kind of started to close things down. What kind of effect did it have on your business, on your numbers? I mean, I imagine when the gyms got shut down too, because owning a supplement company, most of the time those things go hand in hand. But what were the immediate effects that you felt as soon as they shut things down?
So when everything started to get shut down, I was operating for like 5-6 months, and stuff wasn't like busy at the time. You know as well as I do, you can't just open up an online store and people come flooding in and you're the next Amazon. So numbers weren't awesome, but I was still growing in some way, shape, or form each month.
Mm-hmm.
And then that happened. I remember I was talking to buddies at work, like they're like, "Oh, my gym's shutting down." I was like, "Mine's not. That sucks." And then of course everything shut down. I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of waiting to see what happened. The first couple days, weeks, it was still fine, but I think April was the first full month everything took an effect, and that was like a super low month. Obviously my overhead super low, so I wasn't hurting super terribly, but numbers were low because everybody was spending scared. They are like, we're only spending money on the essentials, apparently buying thousands of rolls of toilet paper at the time. So people were spending scared. So April was a super slow month. Just kind of, it is what it is. And then past that, I mean, every month I still somehow managed to grow, which makes me kind of think people want pre-workout. Were you just tweaking at home doing computer work? It's like, what were you? It's like, I don't know. I don't even know how many states gyms were shut down, but like, I know a lot of them were. And like, even people buying, like, obviously I can see where the orders are going. And I'm like, either you have a home gym or you're tweaking at home on pre-workout. So, I mean,
it's trying to stay up later.
Either way.
Trying to stay up later, play PS4, man, or PS5 now.
Something, man.
Like,
Warzone.
They're doing the old school. Just take the scoop, swash it around and swallow it.
Yeah, I can't do that, man.
That's not my jam either, man.
Harsh.
I can't even do like stim, pre-workout anymore.
Really?
Like, I don't know. It's because I'm old or something. But I'm like, I'm just gonna do this. Do some oxide, some nitrous oxide, some beet juice or something, and get my blood flowing a little bit cleaner.
Good old blood flow, man. Can't beat it.
But it really was. I think when you look at that time and having a lot. I mean, when we were working directly with your salons and your barbershops, I mean, we really got into this the swing of things with wholesale and having our stuff on shelves of places with Captain Coops. And, we were really excited about where we were and the trajectory we were going at. We were planning on, expanding our radius of where we could, deliver to and really making some great relationships with our barbershops and salons. Cause, we weren't going to like sport clips. Okay. We're going to, entrepreneurs who started their own business and maybe they're renting out chairs in a building. And knowing those guys are busting their ass and gals are busting their ass every day to make it work. So, working on those relationships. And then when they got shut down and it was like our numbers fell off a cliff. And obviously we still did, some semi-decent online stuff, but we made kind of a turn in the early part of 2020 that was like, wow, we can really do some, I think some more explosive work if we're working in this wholesale arena.
Right.
And so, our focus kind of shifted a little bit to that. And thus our online sales, our direct to consumer online sales kind of took a dive. Again, similar reason on that, because people weren't going, what's the most important thing I need right now? Beard oil or toilet paper?
Right.
I need all of the toilet paper because, well,
apparently that was the move.
And bleach wipes, which you still, for some reason, like they're so sporadic. Like, oh, now they're like off-brand things, and it's really just like paper towel dipped in water. You're like, I don't think this is really doing it.
It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, spit on it, it'll be fine. No, don't spit on it. No, geez, no, God, COVID. But I think when you have that, especially, I think we launched in November, so I mean, very similar, kind of timeframes to launching our businesses. You have a moment of like, oh shit. You see the first numbers that come in and you understand that, a lot of orders aren't going to be going out, for us in wholesale and for you because of what we talked about, people not spending their money frivolously on, things that can make them healthier, which we'll get into. But it's a scary moment, I think, for a young entrepreneur and for someone, for people that are just getting started, because you do feel like, okay, well, I guess, how do I stay afloat?
Yeah.
If you have a couple of years under your belt, maybe I'm gonna say you're a little more prepared for those things, but because nobody was. But
Right.
the definition of an essential business, does that make it easier to survive? It was a very complex, couple of months there. But what do you think? Because I know you stay after it with your marketing, and you stay after it with it really being a kind of a one-on-one contact person through your social media sites and stuff. What do you attribute the being able to kind of, I'm gonna say ride the wave, but stay afloat in the ocean that is and was COVID?
I think a lot of it comes to like transparency and like showing your face to your customers, because
Mhm.
like there's a lot of these e-commerce platforms, especially nowadays, with like just spam Instagram accounts. And my main social media is Instagram,
Mhm.
because stories and people just the most interaction for me. I think transparency was the most of it. Like if you, um, everybody struggled in some way, shape, or form during COVID. Like I don't really, even if somebody says they didn't struggle, it's fake, because they did struggle in some way,
Mhm.
shape, or form. Even if that's not super bad, like they lost their job, lost their business, you struggled in some way.
Mhm.
So I think just not putting on like a happy face, and like my quote that Rob Bailey says is, "I only have good days." Even if your days suck so bad, you can pull something good from it, but days still suck. So I think just putting out the transparency to customers, like shit sucks right now, but hey, like if you need help, I got you. Like, let me know how I can help, which I guess helped me. I just one day on stories, I asked how I can help, and people thought that was so cool. I was like, well, like, why are people so shocked? There's something wrong where people are so shocked that I'm asking them how I can help them.
Right.
They're shocked at that. I'm like, that's something's wrong here. I was like,
Yeah.
people should be shocked by that. So, yeah, a lot of it's just transparency and putting your face on the brand. Like people know your face. People don't want to buy from a faceless brand.
Right.
Um, so
And I think that's, when you talked about people being like shocked that you were engaging with them in a one-on-one, arena. I think because people aren't really necessarily used to that. There are a lot of faceless brands out there. There's
yeah,
a lot of blind buying. Um, I think you have a lot of habitual purchasing. I just, if I'm going to buy this, I always get this because it's always the way it has been, or it's convenient, or I don't know any better. I don't have time to do the research. So
right.
they blindly go in and they make these purchases. But I do feel like there was, and I don't know how much it moved the meter overall, but there really felt like there was a push during this whole thing for the support local, the support small business. I think
Yeah.
there was a lot of energy that hopefully opened a lot of people's eyes to go, oh, Target and Walmart are going to be fine.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to get they're going to get bailed out. I mean, like what? You got a PPP loan, Target? Like you're good?
Yeah.
All right.
How much money?
Well,
Excuse me?
how many millions? Okay, good. You're going to be okay. You're going to
Yeah.
make it. Okay, good. But
Yeah.
I think that, when those kind of stories came out, people really started to realize that outside of the essentials that you need to get,
Mhm.
there are places, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's an e-commerce site, or even, small shop that caters to a specific audience. I think you had a lot of people that were like, okay, if I can budget this, if I can make this work, I would rather, even though I have to go to Walmart, I have to go to Target, or I have to go wherever to get my A, B, C, D, E, F,
Yeah.
because Jesse's not selling oranges yet. But
Right.
I'm going to go, and these other 5 things that are on my list, I'm going to try to buy them from a local company, somebody who I know is in my hometown, is in my same area code, because there seems to be an understanding kind of came through that people will go out of their way to know that they're supporting somebody that's local, and thus that money eventually, at some point,
Mhm.
will go back into their community and hopefully grow these businesses from kind of where you and I are, which is, working out of our working out of our homes, or working out of, small spaces, to a
Yeah.
place where we're a little more accessible.
Right. Exactly. I think this whole thing, which I don't want to say it kind of died out, but it's not as big as the support local. That's not as big as it used to be.
Right.
There's still people behind it, but I think people realize like, hey, this kind of opened everybody's mind to support local and why it matters so much versus buying Target. Because like if a Target shuts down, they're like, oh, GPS next Target's over here.
Right.
Whether if it, like a small town movie theater shuts down, it breaks people's heart because this movie theater has been in the neighborhood for like 20 years. This barbershop has been in the neighborhood for 15, 20 years. And so there's definitely a big difference. And I think 2020 opened people's eyes to that. I think it opened people's eyes to like how important local businesses are, small business, local business, whatever it may be. I think it definitely opened people's eyes. So
yeah, I think you see on a grander scale. What's the Barstool Sports guy? Is it Mike Portnoy? Dave Portnoy?
Dave, I think, yeah.
Dave Portnoy, yeah. You know, starting his small business fund, and I remember I saw it as he was doing a live, and I just kind of started. I mean, I followed Barstool Sports. I just kind of started following him individually,
right?
And he was just starting to talk about this, the concept of it,
yeah,
about this, you know, support small business thing. You know, he wasn't going to do a GoFundMe because the percentage they take. He was looking at other platforms. It was like the day before it kind of exploded. You know, he starts this small initiative to get people engaged to help support small business. Obviously, he's out on the East Coast. He's in Boston. So my initial thought was, well, that's awesome that he's doing that for a community like Boston. We got small town pubs everywhere and these restaurants that have been around forever. And then when it grew to the point where, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, who I know you love so much, but I'm a Viking fan. But
right.
I mean, as far as a charitable sense, he goes, you know, and contacts him and says, how can I help? You know, what was the highest donation? You know, it was $500,000. Like, I'll match that. $500,000.
Damn.
So, you know, all this money is going into this, you know, support small business fund. And, you know, people are just reaching out to him and saying, hey, here's my story. Here's, you know, I run, my grandfather started this restaurant back in whatever, 1930, and still in the family, and 20 employees, and we're trying to keep things going. So I think you saw, you know, when you go from the likes of the guy that runs Barstool Sports, which is a pretty, you know, large entity in itself, but just a guy who's behind it and saying, I got this idea, you know, start in Boston, you know, move to New York and do some other things down there. But then it explodes on where you have guys like Aaron Rodgers. You know, there's been several other big names that have donated to this cause,
right?
All to help support local business. So I think there is, hopefully with that recognition, because you and I can sit here and talk all day. This podcast isn't quite big enough yet to make that big of a difference. But I think you see that people who follow Aaron or they follow Barstool Sports or all the other, you know, major names that have helped, you know, fund this program, they go, oh, like, it is important. It is important to, you know, keep my favorite restaurant in business or continue to support my barber if I can go and see him. And even if I can't, you know, how can I help them while they're shut down? So I think there was some, amongst all the chaos and war zone insanity, just turn off the damn news, people. I think there was some light in there that people are starting to make some sort of effort to come together for small business.
Yeah, and I think something I noticed, because I used to go to Great Clips and stuff, but I got sick. Like, once COVID hit, I tried to go to smaller businesses and everything. And like, what people don't realize is that business, like the smaller business, like I've noticed smaller barbershops kick Great Clips ass. Like they kick all these other big businesses as far as quality of work, because these people running their business actually care. Not that big corporations don't, but they just hire people who might just need a job to support their kids and might just need a job to do this, do that, and they might not care as much as a small business. So if you're supporting a small business, most times it's better work, better everything, in my experience. So
yeah, I mean, I've ordered products from you before, and I gave you my list of things I need before we started here today. I'm like, oh shit, turmeric, you know, I'm just running low on turmeric. It's infused with you know, black pepper. It's good. But there's something about the fact that my first time I placed an order with you, and it was here the next day.
Yeah.
I mean, that's knowing that you're not just sitting at home waiting for orders to come through. You have other jobs. You have other things that are going on.
Yeah.
There was probably a Friday the 13th marathon and you were, you know, distracted or something. But the fact that, you know, you, small business owner, went, order came in, and then went and proceeded to fill that order and get it out within, I mean, you probably got it out that same day because it got to my house the next day. I mean, I think when you see those kind of things, those little attentions to detail, you go, oh, this is the difference between dealing with XYZ major company and dealing with somebody who's really passionate about what they're doing and is driven to succeed.
Yeah, because what a lot of people do, a lot of companies, even in my space and just companies, period, it's like once people, a lot of people don't know this, but once they get that, like your order is shipped, that only means they printed the label. So some companies, this is where transparency comes into play. I've advertised same day shipping, which is not like just, you won't only get your tracking the same day. It'll be at the post office or UPS the same day. A lot of companies let their pallets fill up and they just send you that email saying it's shipped the same day, but it's still sitting in their warehouse, and you wonder why it takes 2 weeks to get to you, because they wait, and it's just a kind of a stupid mind game, which I didn't know that was a thing before I started my company. I was like, companies actually do that?
Right.
Like, I was like, that's kind of shitty, man. So that's my thing. Luckily for me, it works out well, where I still, of course, have a full-time job. I work overnights at the jail. So I advertise, like, if an order is in by 4:45, I drop it off same day. And then I start my shift at the jail at 6. Post office closes at 5:30, so I leave a little bit early for work, drop it off at the post office, go to work. So it kind of works out perfectly.
I think there's a lot to be said about, that kind of commitment, to your brand, to your product, to what you're trying to eventually make this your gig. Like this is obviously what you want to do as a full-time profession. Now, I mean, and kudos to you for all the other, the jobs that you undertake, but if you're into this game, this is something that, the long game is, this is what you want to do. So I think
there's a lot of people that hit me up. They're like, I want to do this, but I have no money. I'm like, well, you better get ready to work a full-time job. And that's why I'm still overnights. It kind of, Dan, he says overnights. What is it? Overnights a carcinogen, so it's like not good, which is obvious. But it's like, if you want to do something so bad, you better be prepared to like struggle in some way, shape, or form until you get to your end goal.
Yeah, so. I mean, I do the same thing. I mean, I was, I think when I went in, blindly starting a new business, I'm like, well, this is what I'm going to do. This is going to be my thing, and I'm going to commit all my time to it.
Yeah,
and the money will come. Well.
Within time, but
yeah, it's a time game. But and there was some success early on that I was like, oh, cool, we can reinvest in the company. We're still staying, where we need to be as far as, our trajectory for the year. The bottom falls out in March of 2020, and I got to a point where I was like, this can't be a full-time thing right now. It just, I will devote as much time as I can. You get it. You get done with work at whatever time in the morning or in the afternoon or between all your jobs and all the other things that are going on. Like, I got to get a post out. If you got a new product that is coming in, you got to get that, make sure that that's highlighted, or, this was sold out, but it's coming back in. You got to be on top of all these things. And that has to come in your spare time.
Right.
And your spare time is, it's not really spare time. It's just time you're working on your passion. But, I had to take a job doing, I'm going to say grunt work, but I was, I'm cutting trees down and cleaning shit and doing things that I would never have considered after 20 years in radio. Like, I'm thankful for people that do that, but that just isn't my jam. Right. But in order to make, this podcast grow to where I want it to grow to, and my vision for this, and also to have my beard company grow from where it is now to where I want it to be, and create a self-sustaining, environment where I can kind of operate without my oversight. Yeah. Somehow, some way, in the midst of all that, bills apparently have to be paid. I don't know. Like they even as forgiving as they are during COVID.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of like music, where like these bands have been like, this band A have been touring for 10 years, and then something happens, and then all of a sudden they hit it quote unquote big. And a lot of people, they're like, what do you mean you've been around for 10 years? I'm just hearing about you, and they blow up. I feel like a business is kind of like that, where it might take some people 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, might even take longer. Just depends how long you want to stick with it and actually do side gigs to make it work. Yeah. So
can't all be Taylor Swift and just buy your way to the top.
Right? That'd be nice.
Oh, probably get flagged on Facebook for saying that. All the T Swift haters are going to come out and start talking mad shit. But no, I mean, I think that's, and having been in that industry and knowing a lot of really super fucking talented bands that are, I would not consider them baby bands, but on the come up, and these dudes are doing 200 to 300 dates a year. They're playing they're coming through a market like our size and doing a Tuesday night gig to get to their Thursday, Friday, which is maybe in a bigger market like Minneapolis, St. Paul. Then they're going to Fargo. They're in a Sprinter van or in a RV. Shit's always breaking. There's assholes out there stealing their equipment, which nothing pisses me off more than when I read that from some of my artist friends. Like, oh, we had our equipment trailer parked outside of the venue after the show and somebody stole all our shit. Like,
God, what band that happened to some band recently. God damn it. What band was that? The Word Alive. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Yeah.
But like that happened to the Word Alive, and then Ronnie Radke from Falling in Verse, he went on a stream, and all of his streams from his Twitch that day was to help the Word Alive, which is pretty cool how he did that. So yeah. I
remember talking to Mikey from Islander the morning after their stuff got stolen. They were down in like Odessa, just like, I don't want to say middle of nowhere because Odessa is bigger than here, but doing a small gig and all of their shit got stolen. Like, I don't know if they took the whole trailer, but like, and I mean, and dude was, he was not upset. Like I would be upset. Yeah. Like he was like, it's all good. We're just, obviously that person needed our equipment more than we did. I'm like, but wait, I think you need your equipment more than that asshole did. But really came across with a very, positive, enlightening message. And I think because he went that route, there was the outpour of support for them and some GoFundMe stuff. I think they were able to actually stay on that tour. So, I mean, you do see, artists like that who grind every single day. And when they're not, doing a show, doing a gig, they have a random off day. It's like, park at the Walmart parking lot so we can stock up on supplies for the next run and get back to it. But yeah, there's bands that you think that, oh my gosh, this was their first big hit. And you're like, they have a catalog, man. They have a catalog of songs that he will never, probably ever hear, but that's what they were, cutting their teeth on in the industry. And I want to talk about an industry that's suffered, I don't want to say more than anybody else has, but it's tough to find an industry where you are basically from top to bottom, from the venue to the waitress that works at that venue, to the janitor, to the sound guy, to the stage crew, to the band, to the management, that everything for the last basically year.
Yeah.
Minus a few here and there hit and miss shows that some bands are out doing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah. It is kind of cool what they're doing to like not make up for it, but to like do something else. Like a lot of them are on Twitch. Yeah. Like I never went on Twitch before COVID, just never did. And like Telly from the Word Alive, Ronnie Radke from Falling in Verse, all these other guys, they started to go on Twitch. I'm like, huh. So I checked. So I mean, that's just cool how many music guys did that, because their fans might not give a shit about video games, but like they can literally sit on Twitch for 5 hours and just talk to their fans, which a lot of people geek out about, which is cool.
Yeah,
so,
Twitch was something I discovered. My dude that does my hair and my beard keeps it all pretty. He's a gamer and he's on Twitch, and that's really what I thought it was. I knew that Trivium does some stuff and does some stuff on Twitch, and they actually several years ago were talking about how everybody's ignoring this platform where there's millions and millions and millions and millions of people constantly on it, watching people play video games, but there's also these other channels. People are doing stuff. They're writing songs. It's going on. They're doing it live on Twitch.
Yeah.
And
like said All That Remains. Yeah, the lead singer of All That Remains, he goes and plays songs on there.
Yeah, Phil's on there all the time.
Yeah, and same with Neil from A Day to Remember, which is like one of my favorite bands. Like he goes on there and just jams out. I was like, this is fucking cool. Holy shit.
It's such a cool platform that I discovered again through D Price, who's going to be on the show next week. Nice. And he was like, there's really an audience here, especially during COVID, because this is really where I took the podcast from being an audio only thing to, being live streamed. And, it started on Twitch, and now, just using a different, back end platform, we're able to be on Facebook and to be on our YouTube channel as well. But you go in there and you start searching for people that you would never think would be on a, what is labeled as a video game, streaming service.
Right.
There's people on there in the just chatting and podcast section that are just talking for hours about random shit. And they have like 25,000 people watching. I'm like, this is where we need to be. We need to come and hang out here. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
there's always guys like me where I was living alone for so many years. It's like I literally, like, when it's super quiet, I would turn something super random, and it makes me think, like, dude, I wish I was on Twitch years ago when, like, I needed just some sound and like all this other stuff I could discover. I wish I knew that back then, but here we are. I just now found out about it like 8 months ago.
Super cool platform. Welcome to it. If you're watching on Twitch, hi, thank you. At No Limit Cooper. Jesse's on there too. Go follow him.
Yes.
But no, I think you do see a lot of innovation. And I guess this would go even into entrepreneurs and small business owners in ways that during all of this, when people's attentions are not as focused on other things as they typically would be, where artists have done a lot of, they're streaming some live concerts. I think a lot of them started doing it just for free. It was really kind of a cool, when it first started, it was kind of a cool glimpse into, an artist that you see on a big stage doing their thing and the energy of a crowd, and, whether they have pyro, whether they have all the shit going on, you're like, wow, this person's like a fucking rock star. And then you get to see them in the stripped down version, just like jamming on Twitch. And, feeding it through Zoom. So they have like all the members are in there and they're doing songs together. Really kind of a cool, different perspective on that.
Yeah.
I think they, some artists in different genres jumped on and said, this is great. I love it. How can we monetize this? Because, this is great, but I would like to be able to pay for my internet service to be on so we can continue to do this.
I don't know who the first band to do it was, but I know countless bands have done it where it's like a virtual concert, which is a fucking fantastic idea. There's countless bands that did it. But once I heard about that, I was like, a ticket virtual
Yeah.
So it's just kind of cool to see how these music guys adapted, and kind of like, they probably, again, a lot of people got hit hard, but where the music industry got just fucking bitch slapped. It's like, so it's cool to see what they do to kind of adapt.
It was cool. I think the first one I watched was Dropkick Murphys always does a show in Boston on St. Patty's Day.
Yeah.
And everything in St. Patty's Day was shut down in the city of Boston, which is like,
yeah.
I mean, it was shut down in Ireland too. So I mean, like, I'm surprised the world didn't fucking end then. Like, that should have been the moment. Like, oh well, turn the lights off and make sure you tip your waitress on the way out. But
pretty much.
But they did, and it was the first one I remember seeing where it was a real stage, live show, no audience, and it was super cool and it was super fucking weird at the same time. Because I mean, if you've seen Dropkick live, they're bouncing around, and they're still trying to do that, but then you always have that ambiance noise of the crowd and them singing along, and and it was just nothing. And they get done playing the song. Usually when the crowd erupts, it was like, the camera guys in the back, like, it's like one guy clapping. It was weird, but it was cool that they found ways to still bring, get that talent out and be able to bring it to their fans. I thought that was super innovative. And I think, businesses have to be that way too. You had to pivot during all this. And if you didn't,
you're probably not alive. That was
well,
you never know. Around, and your business probably just tanked.
Yeah, I mean, the amount, and I had Dr. Jay LaGuardia on, great podcast. If anybody missed that one, it's up on our podcast, on all the channels of our podcast, and then the video is still up on Twitch and on YouTube and still on Facebook. But he was talking, he had actual numbers because he's a research guy, but he's like, the amount of businesses that first shut down because of COVID, and then the percentage of those that will never, ever reopen. And it's like, it's a staggering number across the country when you think about all the places. I mean, even some big chain stuff. I mean, here we had the friggin' Who Hot. Like, it was like 3 weeks into, like, we're out. See you later. We're not coming back, dude. So sorry.
Yeah.
So you, even from mom and pa shops that just couldn't survive this, to longtime restaurants and even some major chain stuff just not coming back. So that's a huge challenge. I think some of those times you can tell the businesses probably didn't make that effort to go, okay, well, if we can't do this, how can we still perform what we need to do? And whether for a restaurant that's curbside delivery, curbside pickup, there was a ton of places around here that never ever delivered. They didn't do the Grubhub, they didn't do any of those apps. They were like, no, if you want our food, you will come in and you will eat here.
Yeah.
Some of them did jump on board with the the Grubhubs or the Eat Streets or all the DoorDash, all that stuff, those apps, which is friggin' genius. Should have been done a million years ago. But some of them just said, okay, since we can't do indoor dining, okay, you who used to be our bus boy is now going to be the guy who lays out the trays, and you who's our wait staff is now going to actually deliver our food to the customers who ordered. They set up their own online ordering system and did it all on their own. And even though they're open now, because Wisconsin has, I don't know what the cap is, but all you have to do, I think, right now is have the social distancing. So, every other table, they have to pull some tables out, and you can't sit around a full bar some places. Not saying some, some all. Right. But that's the kind of, business mindset where you go in and say, here's the challenge that's lying before us. We still want to stay open. As the owner, I still want to keep all of you employed. And you may not like going from waitressing to delivery driver, but we're going to try to keep you getting paid, and we're going to try to keep our doors open once the whole thing blows over. So that's innovation during all this.
Yeah, I think in the supplement industry and other industries, companies did like one of three things. They either just laid down and like died. They did ingenuine things. Like a big thing when COVID hit was like these brands that only had pre-workout and all this like fancy stuff, like not the essentials, like your vitamins, minerals that you should have in the first place. A lot of these brands came out with these immunity products. I'm like, you piece of crap. Like you never cared. It's like you never cared about overall health before, but it takes a pandemic and you are now charging all this money for this product. And it's just, like super ingenuine. And I don't know, but it is impressive how a lot of brands adapted.
Yeah.
But again, there's some companies that just went super ingenuine. It's like, we're gamers now. It's you never, what? It's like,
wait a minute,
you never did this before. Now it's gaming.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
For you, I mean, going back to to pre-October of 2019, before you got into to the supplement industry, what was it that of all the things that you have an entrepreneur mindset, a lot of things you post, which by the way, everybody follow Jesse Westover on the Insta and at the Nutrition Junction on Instagram as well. There's a lot of great content that comes out there, not just supplement related, but a lot of great motivational stuff on there as well. But what for you made you decide that this was the avenue that supplements was going to be, where you're going to take that creativity, where you're going to take that entrepreneurial mindset and make it a business of your own?
So when I was 18, I started to work at a local GNC in Minneapolis here. And I loved the supplement industry because in high school, I lost a ton of weight and I was on the football team and all these guys started talking about creatine. I was like, what the fuck is this? At the time, I had no job, so my mom had to buy it for me. And for her to buy it for me, I had to tell her what it was. So I did research on it. I was like, this is actually cool. So I got down that rabbit hole. Fast forward a couple of years, I ended up running a few GNCs on the corporate side and franchise side. And these managers and store owners wanted me to grow their stores, but they limited me so much. And they're like, we want you to grow our stores, but you can only do like this amount of stuff when the industry's doing this much. And they limited me so much. I was like, one day I said, fuck it, man. Like this sucks. Like you want me to grow your store, you want me to grow your business, but you limit me so much. So I said, fuck it. And I, of course, wanted to start my own retail store, but I didn't have like 50 grand to start it. So I just started e-commerce, which I knew nothing about. I learned a lot from Dan and just Googling stuff. So e-commerce was the cheaper way to start, obviously, versus retail store. It's still the goal one day, but there's just certain things that other stores won't do or brands they won't touch. And and they're not really transparent.
Right.
My biggest thing to do my own thing. You walk into all these corporate supplement stores and they push their own brand on you. It's like, why do you think a lot of them aren't doing that because it's a better product. A lot of them are doing it because it's more money,
Right.
which I think is shitty. I think when it comes to stuff people put in their body, it's really nothing to mess around with. So I just kind of wanted a whole transparent thing where I don't care what you buy, but like if it helps you, that's cool. If you don't buy my favorite brand, I don't care. If you buy this because it's better for you, that's cool. Like I'm not going to push you to buy a certain brand because I make more money off of it. Which obviously money's the bloodline of businesses, but at what point do you draw the line?
Right.
Especially when it comes to stuff people are taking in their body. So
yeah, and it's being a supplementer for a long time and understanding just not only through my own understanding what goes in and the output that it ends up putting back out, but just doing research on it and listening to people that are much smarter than I am, talk about how much you need supplements, just even if you're just trying to make it through the day.
Yeah.
You're trying to get from stepping out of bed to going to bed. Like that's your goal. I need to A and I need to B and then the shit in between. Even if that's it. Like you can't get in your body through a normal diet or any diet, getting all the proper nutrition that you need as far as your vitamins, your minerals. And especially when if you live up here in the Northern Hemisphere where we don't see the sun for 6 months and you don't really understand what the sun does and how important vitamin D is, there's just things that you need to do, and supplementation is so important.
Right.
And when you add on top of that COVID and the one thing that really shocked me, I shouldn't say that. It didn't shock me, but I was like, Jesus, guys, like somebody just call a spade here. Like the reason that COVID is as dangerous as it is to the victims that it's already taken and the ones that are sick, 2.5 comorbidity factors in about 99% of them. So there's already some underlying conditions. So obviously there's some health issues. Some of that shit's hereditary. I know you can't help it. It's not.
Right.
But when you're talking about being deficient in things and your immune system not being able to handle things, and whether that's lack of vitamin D or zinc or magnesium or whatever, or it's lack of exercise or, vitamin D3, all these things that you could really just implement into your body.
Right.
That's when I think nobody was out, preaching from the top of the podium or preaching from the top of the podium and saying like, hey, we're working on the vaccine and whatever.
Right.
It's just going to start the zombie apocalypse. Let's not lie about it.
Yeah. Or back. The movie I Am Legend. I mean,
that's, pray for us sinners. But it really was upsetting that that nobody in an authoritative position, which everybody who listens to the narrative listens to the person on the TV screen or on their Facebook feed and says, oh yeah, that guy, he's right. We need to stay indoors and wear a mask and we're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Nobody said, it'd be great if we were not the least healthy country on the planet and we all maybe started taking some vitamin D and maybe a little zinc and maybe we got outside and did some shit.
Yeah.
If your gyms are open, now's a good time because what else do you have to do? Pop down your $12 a month and call it good. So the fact that nobody was talking about supplementation, nobody was talking about exercise, nobody was talking about overall health, diet, all the things. But I think it's fascinating that the supplement industry, because knowing, you seem to have a really good relationship with the brands that you work with. It doesn't seem like you're pulling from like the bottom of the food chain. It seems like there's genuine companies that you're working with to bring out to bring your clients through Nutrition Junction the best products that are out there. Tell me about the relationship that you have between you and your suppliers.
Yeah, so a lot of them, let's see, probably half of them I've met like on Instagram at GNC, because when I was at GNC, I really hate saying that company name, but when I was there, I would go on Instagram and I'd be like, hey, can I do Instagram videos and stuff? They're like, I don't care. So I did that, and they found me through that, and of course, they thought I was there for them to get in GNC, which I ended up kind of helping one brand get in GNC, but I was like, I'm not even gonna try that, but I just kept in contact with them. And then once I did my own thing, that's kind of how I started to talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like the guys from Blackstone Labs, I talked to them before I was at my own thing. Pat from Core Nutritionals America Labs, I talked to him before. So a lot of these guys I've talked to before I even started my own thing. And I was like, hey, now that we're talking. So there's that. And I have a pretty good knowledge at if somebody's just full of shit, luckily.
Right.
So if somebody's a shitty person, I'm not going to I don't want to work with you. Even if customers want your product, yeah, I don't know. People suck, and I somehow have a gift of telling if people suck or not.
You got the radar. Alarm goes off.
What? Yeah.
No.
Yeah, and I for some reason I was asking these companies stuff that nobody asked before. It's like, if you're a business, I'm like, what do you mean you've never got asked this before? It's kind of weird. So, yeah.
No, I think that for your sanity too. I mean, as you continue to grow during this process, even having gone through the COVID thing and trying to distribute a product that's not necessarily. I mean, it's not just for people that go to the gym, but
right.
Like we talked about, nobody's just taking pre and sitting on the couch just to see what happens. Like, I really love is when my body just kind of tingles and I feel like I'm kind of.
Why am I tweaking?
My eye starts to twitch a little bit and I can't see the TV. I think that's great. It's fun. It's good to call it Saturday night. Right. I like to have a couple of beers afterwards just to even myself out. Just call it life. But no, I think for you wanting, as you want to grow this brand, what is behind you, what you are, and at the end of the day, selling to people that are putting their bodies. I think that relationship and also the knowledge you have of the product, that's what continues, the success is that you know what it is. I've watched your Instagram stories, talking about the ingredients that go into stuff, the importance of this and that. But I think that relationship for you and your sanity, you don't want to get to the point where you have your, your storefront, in your warehouse, and then you got asshole from XYZ Labs on the phone and you're going, fuck, I hate this guy, but I guess, but maybe at that point you just hire somebody, like you take his phone call. Like that's your job. You just talk to him and I'll talk to everybody else. But no, I think it's super important in any industry, especially when you start off on a small level, to have great relationships behind the scenes, because that when you do have shitty days or shitty months or 2020,
right.
He doesn't make, you don't dread like, on top of it, I have to talk to Dave and he's a dick, but you can still find some pleasure in doing business with your clients. That's really cool.
It's kind of funny. Most of the brands I carry, like, most of them actually, when I talk to them, it's rarely about business. Like it's just bullshit and talking to them. And I'm like, oh shit, I actually need more of this too while we're at it. And then like, so that's the cool thing. Most of the brands I carry, I can talk to the owners or the people behind the brands. 9 times out of 10, we talk about just random shit, aliens, fucking 2020 guns. So that's what's nice about it. It's not just a one-way street. And a lot of the brands, they randomly text me as they ask how I'm doing. They ask this and they don't. There's brands out there that they only talk to you when they think you need more product. And if you don't need anything, if you don't want to give them your money, they just don't talk to you. So luckily the brands I carry aren't like that.
Yeah, 2020 was just a strange year, man. I mean, they announced, the Pentagon announced that aliens are real. We've had extraterrestrial ships that have come into our planet. And we're like,
even that flew under the radar.
Yeah,
it's like
nobody cared.
It's like,
There's so many great memes out there too about that. Like the aliens are outside. They're going, maybe we're going to wait. Like these assholes need to figure some things out before we come down and talk to them.
It's like all this other shit was going on. Then like Homeland Security or whoever like released those documents, they literally proved like those are real, and people just said fuck it, like, and they just didn't pay attention.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna go back to binge watching Tiger King.
Shit.
I know. Like that's like everybody kind of forgot. Like that was like the big thing in March and April. It was like what kept everybody saying like, hey, life sucks, but it ain't that bad. Like I'm not messed up tiger guy from Oklahoma. Could be worse.
Yeah.
And then like it went away and we're like, remember the good old days we were just talking about Tiger King and Carol Baskin and the other reason he got brought back into my, peripheral vision is because he was pissed because Trump didn't pardon him on his way out the door.
I was reading an article last night and like they were saying he had a limo outside of the jail ready for him. And he was so ready. I was like,
there was somebody had shared the feed of the local news channel had a drone over the jail with just like continuing live footage. Like it was just like he's just waiting.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen. Meanwhile, Lil Wayne is like, he was in Green Bay like last weekend. He's like, I'm good. I'm pardoned. Great.
Dude,
Thanks.
I must have been living under a rock because I didn't even know that I didn't know that was a thing. Because with working overnights, I go down the rabbit hole sometimes on the computer, and I'm just like, hey, Lil Wayne was in trouble? What the hell? I was like, oh.
That's funny. I just saw him at the Packer game on Sunday. He was up in one of the things. Like, I must not be that bad.
Right.
Like, I think we could have done some better work there. There's a couple of guys that maybe deserved a pardon. Edward Snowden, Julian Assange. I'm just throwing those names out there for just to see if I can get this video flagged. Really, like, what, that asshole talking about Assange on here? Yeah. All of a sudden, my microphone doesn't work. That's weird. Who does that?
God damn it.
Big brother's listening. When we talk about getting into business, and I think you mentioned a lot of great things. You and I both got great information from Dan Beck, who, full disclosure, Midwest Meals is a sponsor of the podcast here, but a great resource for somebody who has had success in entrepreneurial and has really grown his business and continues to do so even through COVID. But I think you touched on one great point. It's because it's something that I did myself that people, I think people know, but there's so much information available for free.
Yeah.
If you just ask the Google machine.
Yeah.
Like I was like, how do you write a business plan?
Yeah.
And there was like 35 million results.
Yeah.
And yes, you do have to do some weeding out of, the ones that are like 45 minutes of a pitch and then it's like 15 minutes and they're trying to sell you like, we'll write it for you for only $59. Like, wait a minute, hold up there, bro. But there's so much great information about the silliest questions you can ask. If you there's something you want to start, you're interested in doing, you make bath bombs and you're like, hey, it'd be really cool if I had my own, place I could make bath bombs and I could, sell them to people. And you obviously have the talent, you know exactly how to make the bath bomb. Okay, well, how do I get an LLC? Like, how do I get my tax identification number? Like I don't know, I can't do it. Like the answers are out there, young Skywalker.
Yeah, there's people like I put on my Instagram a lot, like if I can help you, let me know. But there's people that like obviously try to take advantage of it, and they're like, hey, I want to start this business. Can you help me? It's like, yeah, let me walk you through step A to Z and help you start your business for free. It's like, I don't want to be a dick, but it's like to these people, I'm like, how do you think I started? Google is shit, man. Like, it's like I'm not gonna hold your hand through it all. Like, I literally found most of my shit through Google, because like, I mean, it's out there. There's YouTube videos. I mean, I filed my trademark and got my trademark from a fucking YouTube video because I didn't want to pay a lawyer $1,000 to do it. So it's like the information's out there. Just look and stop being like lazy, expecting somebody to help you. Obviously, there's some aspects I'll help them with, but I'm like, not A to Z. Let me just help you start your business.
Yeah, because I think if you're not going to do that, if you're not going to take the I'm going to call them the simple steps, because there's a lot of things that are rather complex and you do need to do your research on it. But if you're not willing to like say, oh, I have this idea, can you just tell me how to do it? Well, come to me with an actual question. Like, hey, I'm looking at this LLC thing. Is this really going to be for me? Like, how does it work for you? Like, in taxes, those kind of questions, I think when you surround yourself with other entrepreneurial, it's easy for me to say, minded people, if you, I want to say ask the right questions, but if you're like not asking to have either them give you money, like, hey, I want to start a business, can you give me some money? Like, no. But if you have like a legit question, especially in like the e-commerce world, when you have a guy who's in Dan and others that I've met, like, man, your shop looks great. Like I put mine together and I'm hitting the ask more on Shopify, and I don't understand what they're saying. Like, how did you make this look like this? Like simple questions like that, more times than not, actually, I can't remember a time when I was denied an answer to a question from somebody who has their own business. If you're asking the right questions, if you've been through it, you're willing to share that. But again, don't be like, hey, you want to go ahead and register my domain and set up my email.
That makes you think. It's like, if you're not willing to go out there and find the answers yourself for like how to start a business, how to file an LLC, if you're not willing to go out there looking for the information, you're in a you're in for a tough road, man, because that's only the very small part of it is that.
And
So
I think you have, when you're willing to do those steps on your own or learn those things on your own, when you have a question and you bring it to somebody, and if I brought you a question or Dan a question or my buddy Phil a question, all these people I know that are working in this arena, not only are they more willing to help because they know that you've gotten from A to B to C to D, you're at D plus, and you're like, just, can you give me just a little bit of guidance here? Not only are they willing to help you with that guidance, if it's like a person that you need, or like a contact, or like a website or a service, like they're willing to share that kind of information because they know that you've done the work to get to that point where you're going to need, an e-service, email service provider, or you're going to need a packaging. Like already, like I really like the boxes that you got, or the tape that you use. Like do you have a place? Because the place like the stuff I got, like if you get to that point, people are more willing to share their knowledge on things. Like, oh yeah, I go to this guy and he does great work. They're more willing to share those resources.
Right. But yeah, it's kind of like I said before, if you're not even willing to do your input on on trademark, LLC, starting a business, if you're not willing to do that, it's like, I don't know what to tell you, man. And
you have another section of people who have interest in having their own business, and that is, and we talked about this on a previous podcast that you and I were both on back in the day. It's people have an idea that, okay, if I want to be a business owner, I should probably go back to school and learn all the things that there is to learn about business ownership.
Yeah.
And I do think there is some, depending on what you're going into. And I've said this about school 100 times in 100 different shows, and even on this show. There are people who I think need to go to school.
Yeah.
I don't want my doctor performing surgery on me if he learned how to do it on YouTube. I don't want it. You know, unless we're in this apocalypse now and it's like frontier medicine and it's like, well, it's either, amputate or whatever. Okay, I'll make the sacrifice for the greater good. But if I'm just going into the hospital and I'm like, I need to have, knee surgery done because I'm flipping tires and doing stupid shit, I want that guy to have a college education.
Yeah.
But just the basics. Lawyer, probably the same.
Yeah, there's certain industries like lawyers, doctors, all that stuff. You have to go to college, and that's fine. But like, there was one of my former employees from back in my retail days. He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna start a business. I just graduated with my entrepreneurship degree." I was like, "What the fuck is that?" I was like, "Wait, are you serious?" Like, and there's people that like go to business school to start a business. I'm like, I mean, congratulations, but like, that's not needed. You don't need to do that. Like,
probably could have saved yourself many, many thousands of dollars.
Yeah. No, go to YouTube University instead of like University of Minnesota. Like, you don't. Yeah.
I do think that there is, depending on the field you're trying to get in, I think there are courses that could benefit you. Like if you're going into web design.
Yeah.
And you have, coding.
Right.
Or even if you want to be, you want to not be somebody who eventually outlets that to somebody else. You want to have a killer website. You're like, I don't want to have somebody else do that for me because they can't see my vision. Trust me, there's a lot of talented people out there who can code and can make your vision come to fruition. But if it's something it's something I want to know how to do, or video editing, which I think you can learn without it. But I think there's courses that you can take to learn some of those things.
For sure.
But going to full on, doing a 4-year, even a 2-year, in the long run, probably the best way to get through obstacles that you have to face in business ownership is kind of just to face them head on. Like, well, this is going to suck. Now I need to figure out what I want to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's some industries where like you want to be a nurse. Guess what? You're not going to be without a degree. So like that's kind of like a unavoidable thing. But if you want to start a business, like most of your learning is going to come from like fucking up, honestly. Right. So.
Yeah. Jesse Westover, Nutrition Junction, thenutritionjunction.com is the website. You can also find them, of course, on Instagram at the Nutrition Junction, and at Jesse Westover. He is on there. I appreciate the time, man. And I wish we could talk more football, but you're the Vikings
this year, man.
did that thing again. Now hey, Trust me, I'm going through this weekend like, hey, didn't think we'd get this far. Feel good about life, but it's gonna be some great games this weekend. Where else do people know how to follow you? I know most of the stuff you do is on Instagram. Is that correct?
Yeah. So just the Instagram is at Jesse Westover. That's where you can find me. Then the Nutrition Junction page is in my bio. So
click the link. Get yourself some turmeric.
Yes.
Some zinc. Get that greens mix.
Get the good stuff, man.
Awesome. Jesse, I appreciate your time, brother. Take care of yourself. We'll chat soon, all right, man?
Yeah, man.
That is Jesse Westover from the Nutrition Junction. Check out the show notes if you're listening to the podcast, and you can get all of the information about linking up with Jesse right there. Thank you all for tuning in. To all who are watching on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitch, thank you so much. Make sure whatever your platform you're watching on, like the page. Then you can get updates every time we do go live. We got a couple of great podcasts coming up and live streams coming up over the next several days. We are also on the social medias as myself at No Limit Cooper, pretty much across the board. I don't really do the Twitter thing because I feel like Twitter is like just jumping into a giant pile of shit, and I don't really like to do that. It seems counterproductive, so I don't do it. But I am on there at No Limit Cooper, but Instagram definitely, and of course, welcome to Cooperville on all of the platforms. Twitch.tv/No Limit Cooper. That's where you find most of our content. We'll take this podcast and we'll put the video up. We'll have different clips of the great parts of it, and you can be a part of all that action. Also, if you want to be a part of the free speech revolution, you want to be part of the show, you want to help sponsor, make this thing grow, you can do that. Cooper at welcometocooperville.com. Get in touch. We will make things happen. Until then, our next podcast currently is scheduled for Monday afternoon. We're going to be talking to Dustin Price. And then on Tuesday, my buddy Jimmy Hayes Nelson from the great state of Texas will be on the show. We'll talk about how much his Cowboys suck. I'm just kidding. No, we'll talk about the great things that he's doing. Of course, he was a former Beachbody coach, and he's a motivational speaker, does all the great things. So we'll be talking to him, and we'll be doing it without masks. I know. It's like a crazy show going on here. But thank you all for tuning in. Until next time, we will see you soon. I appreciate your support.